Thank the gentleman. The gentleman from Wisconsin, Mr. Fitzgerald, is now recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to take the questioning in a different direction. Last month, I sent a letter with 16 of my colleagues on this committee to the banking regulators to raise concerns about Basel Endgame proposed high-risk weights for residential mortgages. One of the major issues that the proposal removes is the ability of banks to use mortgage insurance to reduce the risk weights for low down payment mortgages. A departure from existing bank capital rules and the Federal Housing Finance Agency's capital framework for the GSE. Mr. Appleton, you mentioned in your testimony that private mortgage insurance has been around for 66 years. What the committee might not know is that this industry actually was created and has deep roots in my home state of Wisconsin. Why is it important for bank capital rules to recognize private mortgage insurance?
Thank you for the question, Congressman Fitzgerald, and thank you for sending that letter. By failing to recognize private mortgage insurance in the endgame proposal, the bank regulators are making it more difficult for banks to serve low down payment borrowers, service mortgages, or even finance warehouse lines of credit for independent mortgage banks, limiting consumer choice and access to credit. The current rules, as you mentioned, written before the MI industry adopted significant enhancements to its capital and operational standards, allow for a prudently underwritten mortgage with MI to receive a 50% risk weight. So the new proposal that totally ignores this reality should be rescinded. For example, as of the third quarter, the industry already holds 169% of its required capital, and to your point, FHFA's own capital rule recognizes the risk and capital benefits of MI. So if anything, regulators should be recognizing the strength and resiliency of private mortgage insurance more, not less.
So we have a situation where, and this has come up in the committee before, where you have a lot of young adults, those that have attended school, put themselves in a position, many of them couples that find themselves in a situation unable to raise the actual monies for a down payment on a minimal house, which is out of control as a result of the inflation that we've been experiencing across the nation, resulting in housing. And they're just unable to come up with the money to make that down payment. So the builders aren't incentivized to create enough starter homes. It doesn't exist. There's not like two Americas out there. I wish my colleague from New York was still here. He would have everyone think that there's simply this one take on what's going on across the nation. It's happening everywhere right now. Ms. Hamilton, you have specifically discussed the need for housing with 2 to 4 units per building, which is becoming the norm right now for anyone that's developing anything close to a subdivision anywhere in America. And looking at the amount of housing that gets built in total right now, about 4 units per 100 people is being permitted across the country as a whole. It's the only option left for municipalities who know that once they put the infrastructure in the ground, the costs associated with any subdivision is going to be completely out of control. We're talking about modest communities that no longer can put a subdivision in place with housing that's any less than $500,000 per unit, which is clearly out of the reach of almost all Americans that find themselves trying to get their first mortgage. What's the reason for the drop in these types of housing, and is there any type of federal solution that could help with that?
Thank you, Congressman. You're absolutely right that permitting rates are way down from what we've seen relative to times when housing was more broadly affordable. And this is due both to local zoning rules, the rules on the books that limit how much housing can be built and limit the availability of relatively low-cost types of housing, such as duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, or small lot development. And it's also due to local permitting processes that really lengthen the time and add costs to the building of any type of new housing. I do think this needs to be addressed primarily at the state and local levels, although efforts to encourage this reform from Congress are more than welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I yield back.
Thank you. The gentleman from Nevada, Mr. Horsford, is now recognized for 5 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, to the ranking member, 122 days, nearly a year into the